Hello, welcome to the conversation. I'm Harry. Over the past few weeks, I've been reading a little bit about the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. Um, and you can see why, I can really see why Stoicism has a lot of appeal to a lot of people. Because you've got a little bit later on, after he had died, one of his pupils, one of Epictetus's pupils, was a teacher of the future emperor Marcus Aurelius. And he became a very famous Stoic philosopher. And so you have two people who one had nothing, one had everything. One was born into nothing and one was born into everything. And they both were able to live a life of self-control and of peace. And the thing about the thing why I was reading about it while I was looking up, it came up with that this Epictetus wanted to understand the world around him, and he began to see a lot of inconsistencies, as far as I can ascertain. One of the main ones was what freedom actually means. And many people have a lot of idea of what freedom is, and they seem to think that it only has something to do with the outside world, and that's part of it, but there's a little bit more. One thing that Epictetus was physically, economically a slave. In every sense of the word, if you were to look at him, he was a slave. But he was in a very specific situation. Now I forget the name of the ruler, or the person who was his master, but this master was a servant to Emperor Nero, if I'm correct. And an Emperor Nero has been analysed time and time again, and is well known that he is some kind of narcissist, very, very self-centered. And part of this self-centered thing is he wasn't able to listen to reality. He wanted to bend reality to what he thought it should be. Which, who wouldn't like that? And for all intents and purposes, Nero had the power to do that. If someone comes in to a home and says 2 + 2 is 5, and the smart person goes, no, it's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 2 + 2 is 4. Yeah, of course. But the person that comes into the home has a gun or a club or a sword or a knife and threatens violence and death. Very quickly, the strong person will lose his strength and start repeating what this person is saying, despite it being absolutely wrong. Now, this is the thing about Epictetus. Now, he had to be quiet. He wasn't supposed to speak, but he couldn't help but notice. He was allowed to notice, and he like I said, he couldn't help it. He noticed that, as a matter of fact, he was more free than anyone in the court of Nero. Anyone. He saw all these people who had riches, who had golden plates. If I'm right, there's a very famous bathtub which is estimated to cost, like today, like $1 trillion. something ridiculous like that Nero had. Just this ridiculous amount of wealth. And he had all these aristocratic young men who they were competing, and it seemed everyone was quite insecure. Interestingly, in the court of Nero, one of his advisors and his early teachers before he became an emperor was Seneca, another Stoic philosopher. And according to the Daily Stoic, Ryan Holiday, it seems like he even bent what he believed to try and please Nero. Now, don't quote me on that. I think I've got that right. That bit I'm a bit shaky on, but nonetheless, that seems to have happened. And like I think I said this in my last video. Jordan Peterson talks about reality as like a line. Like, okay, I'll do it this way, like a line, and like an elastic band. Now, an elastic band can only stretch so far. You can get different elastic that will stretch further, and you can get elastic that won't stretch too much. But with, imagine someone's life and their reality, like a line of elastic. And if you take one finger here and one finger, one above the elastic, one below, and you twist it and you put it here, that's essentially what a lie is. You're forcing reality to be a certain way. And eventually that snapped for Nero, for his entire system. The whole empire fell, and it was awful. It was terrible. It was a humongous thing, because Nero was so fragile in his mind, and he made other people around him fragile, that he allowed reality. He allowed himself not to confront what reality actually was. Epictetus, on the other hand, who saw all this, he was able to conclude that I'm more free than any of these people. And Epictetus is known for being a great thinker, having followers, and then, like I said earlier, going on to have one of his pupils teach Marcus Aurelius, which in turn started him on a fantastic path, and he became known as the last good emperor. It's like bonkers, crazy, absolutely nuts. So, in my understanding and study of this, Epictetus realized that there's three things: the physical world, the mental, and the emotional for each individual. And reality is one thing. The physical world is what we see, what we touch. Our emotions are what we feel on the inside about whatever is reality, and our mind is something else. Is what controls it. Now, this is where I divert a little bit. In my understanding, in what helps me with reality, is that there are actually four. There's the real world, there's emotions, there's the mind, and then there's the spirit. And the only thing that other people can control is the physical world. It's the only thing that they can control. But the emotions and the mind, they come up with different things. That sometimes the mind can come up with a thought and it brings an emotion. Sometimes an emotion can come and it brings out a thought. So these two kind of need to be kept in check. But the spirit is the actual driver in the driving seat. And when we allow what's outside what's in other people's minds, what's in the culture's mind, what's in society's mind to affect us. And we have to conform to what it says. And then we become dishonest. Or we, he's treating me this way, so I'll treat him this way. I have this happen to me, so I need to act this way. Usually, sometimes it can end pretty well. Sometimes not so much. But then we're letting other people, we're putting the power of control in the hands of other people. And the only person who is in control is ourselves and who we allow it to be. So it is my hypothesis, my theory, my idea, that in order to gain true freedom, it's to have, as Epictetus would have said, it would have been in the freedom of mind. But I think it's better said, at least from my understanding, freedom of spirit. And I see so just let me explain that a little bit better. The spirit I see as a little parent. I remember talking to my brother once, and he said that he sees his emotion and his minds as employees. And I thought that was an interesting way of doing it. But if I have a business, I can get rid of an employee and bring him back, or bring someone else in. So, but you've only got one set of emotions, and they're yours, and you've only got one mind, and that's yours. You can't get rid of them. You can't just there is no getting rid of them. So that doesn't really, for me, doesn't really make sense. What I've concluded is that the spirit is you, is the essence of who you are. It's the spirit of who you are. It is you. And your mind and your emotions aren't you. They are separate individuals. But they're not employees. They're children. And whether you like it or not, they are your children. And if thoughts can come in, and I've certainly said things to people and to myself that were awful, evil. But I was allowing myself to do that. And as a parent, when you have an unruly child, a child that is misbehaving, you can either choose to just give in. But what's interesting about children and emotions are very, very similar in this regard. Children will annoy you until you allow them to stop. We've all seen the child, maybe in recent times, it's mum, dad. I want to go home. Can I have your phone? I want to play a game. And there'll be a tantrum, and the parents give in. And what happens is the child realizes, I have to just reach a threshold of being annoying, being emotional, asserting myself, and then I will get what I want. And that's what emotions are. That's what the mind is. So the mind can do a very similar thing, slightly different, but very, very similar, where it will, if you have a thought or a feeling that you don't want, you can either rush to get rid of it, do something that is going to be destructive. I'm feeling sad, so I'm going to eat. I feel sad, so I'm going to take some medication, some drug, something that is not good. And then that deals with it, right? That's essentially giving the kid the phone. That's essentially allowing the kids to stay up beyond when they should. It's allowing the kids to not do their homework. But then you get those parents who are able to just able to sit there. And in this storm of screaming, in the storm of crying, in the storm of whatever, they're able to just take control and to sit with it. And I saw this great video, brilliant video, with this parent, this man in America, a dark-skinned, beautiful little daughter. Daughter was crying, and he sat his daughter on top of the car, and he starts recording, and she's just wailing and wailing and crying and crying, and he goes on to explain, you know, we get to go inside Walmart because they're American, right? So they get to go inside Walmart because, you know, because that's a treat. You get to be around the family because that's a treat. And when you misbehave, when you do something bad, when you try and upset the balance because you want something, then you don't get. You don't get what you want. So I'm going to remove you from that situation. And this dad was sitting with him, or with the daughter, sorry, sitting with her, calmly. And he was just like, it's a, you know, we're going to sit here as long as it takes. I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to just allow you to do this. And slowly but surely, daughter calmed down. She gave her dad a hug. She said sorry, if I remember. And then he picked her up, and then they went back inside. And then as they were walking in, she's like happy and everything else. And he was like, where did this little girl go? Where did that angry little girl go? What happened? She was like, you know, she conformed. And she was able to see that it's not all about her. But this man was able to control it. This little ball of emotion, he was able to just sit with it and deal with the situation. Our emotions are likewise. Our thoughts are likewise. They are the same. And I think as a society, we're losing more and more this ability to sit with our emotions. Or maybe it's just that the population's getting bigger, so there's still the same percentages of people who can do it, but there's just more people who can't just because of the number. Not that percentages are changing, if that logic follows. So when you feel sad, when you feel upset, angry, hurt, sit with it. Don't run away from that, because it is okay to feel whatever you want to feel, but it is not okay to act however you want to act. So sit with it. Ask it questions as if it was, allow the spirit to come up within you, the parent, the driver, to come up and to ask your emotions questions. Like, he hurt me, she did this. Did she really? And if she did, was she trying to? Did you do something did you do something to deserve it? Is there anything that we could have done differently? If it was malicious, then were there signs of this maliciousness coming about? And if so, if the answer is yes to those questions, or like it's, yeah, I did do something wrong and it's partly me to blame, that's not victim blaming. Stupid word. This is, and like, you know, I had a part to play in this. You know, I've certainly been in relationships, and I'll tell you this. This was a humongous change in my mindset, and you know, I won't give too much away of who, because it's, you know, there's certain things that are private, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot and put them on video if they don't want to be. But there was a girlfriend I had, and very beautiful, gorgeous, and I was so excited to be her boyfriend, and so I asked to be my girlfriend. She said, yeah. And her actual response was, why not? Which, that wasn't a great sign, to be fair. But I, that week, I had invited her to a party. I was invited to a party, and I invited her to come. Um, and when we were there, I'd introduced her as my girlfriend. And when she was introducing me, she introduced me as a friend. She didn't say boyfriend; she said friend. And she was doing that because she didn't feel secure. She was feeling insecure about it, and she didn't want to put herself out there, and all of a sudden it blew up in her face. So it wasn't like she wasn't being malicious. She just needed a bit of security. That's all. But I instantly noticed, and I never put her on the spot. I didn't want to go like, "Oh, we're just friends," in front of people. Wouldn't have been nice. But I was able to sit with the emotion, my own emotion, and then I was able to sit with her emotion. Later on, she walks outside, and on her own. So we'd left, we'd departed. I was in a different part of the party, and she was in a different part of the party. And I noticed that she walked outside. And I was like, oh, opportunity. I want to ask her about that thing. So I went outside, and I just, I wanted to make sure she was okay. It's like, are you okay? Have you had a drink? Do you want a drink? I wanted to make sure that she was looked after. And and then once things were calm and it was settled, I just, calmly asked her, do you mind if I ask, why did you tell people that I was your friend and not your boyfriend? And I said, and her response was, well, we are friends, aren't we? And and that didn't make sense in any universe. And I asked a few questions, like, so okay, if she's my friend, because I also have another female friend, so other female friends that are there, and you're my friend, what is the difference? And then she, well, I don't know. It's well, the difference is I want to sleep with you. That's it. That's the difference. I want you in my life. If then she's my friend and you're my friend, that means that if I'm allowed to sleep with you, and I'm allowed to sleep with her as well. So do you want that? Is that what you want? Well, no then. So what's the difference? And I allowed her to feel uncomfortable for a second. And then I said, the difference is I'm your boyfriend. We are together. We're in a special relationship. We want, at least I want to start a life with you, which is why I asked you out, which is why I invited you to this party, which is why I'm here wanting to show you off. And I want to, and I bought her drinks and I did all these things, and it's only been a week. So this is why I did that. So don't call me your friend. If you want these things, this is what it means. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the first time in my life, this is, I'd kissed other women before, but it was the first time I think a woman had kissed me that I can remember, apart from my mum and my grandma, maybe. And it kind of baffled me because I was very confused. Like, I basically just got annoyed with you. I didn't shout, didn't raise my voice, but I just was very direct, very strong. And it had gone against everything I was taught about women, about how they respond. And what I learned is I was able to maneuver through the emotions that she was putting out, the insecurity that she had, and create security. And I see a likeness from this to my emotions and to my mind. And so that the spirit within me is the thing that's guiding me. Not my mind, not my thoughts, not my emotions, but the spirit that is within me. the spirit that, the divine spirit from God that I have. So what I'm, what I'm recommending to you is to think about the things that you tell yourself, the things that your emotions tell you. Because what we do, if is we get, all the pain that we feel is suppressed and repressed emotions that we're not dealing with. And all of a sudden, after all that is bottled up, bum, 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 finally someone does something to us and we allow the explosion, we allow the thing. And in our minds, they did it to us, it's their fault. Like, no, we set ourselves up for that. We didn't deal with this, we didn't deal with that, we didn't deal with this, didn't deal with that, and all of a sudden, he annoyed me, she annoyed me, some external force did something to me. And I think we're it's part of our culture, it's even part of comedy that we suppress, push down like this. We're men, we gotta push things down. And we're women, we're not allowed to talk about these certain things and whatever. No, we're allowed to talk about whatever we want to talk about. There's no not allowed. You can do whatever you want. You're an adult. And if you are a child, then you are, you're a man when you decide to be a man. And you decide to act like one. And you have to still obey the law, but anyway. So sit with those emotions, deal with them. It will be uncomfortable. It will be hard. But the mental and emotional and spiritual freedom that you will feel from dealing with these things, from sitting with them, from allowing yourself to go through everything, will be peace beyond what you can even imagine. And over the past 4 years, I've come into so much peace. I remember when I moved back from Guatemala, I was, every time I looked at myself in the mirror, I would say something, I would swear, I would curse at myself. I mentioned this before in other videos, and I want people to not do that. I went through it, and it's awful. It's horrible. And then I started to ask why. And I'll show you this. So I was able to sit with this, and actually a friend of my flatmate, he brought this up recently. He saw a video by what's his chops by with Terry Crews in it, and Terry Crews is talking about how he would speak to himself in his own mind. And in my wallet, I've got these two little credit card things. Each side has a picture of me as a child. And before I show you, what I realized I was doing was I was transporting my current mind and knowledge and emotions back in time to when I was 3, 5, 7, 9, 12, whatever. And I was like, you should have known better. And I was judging myself as if I knew what I knew today back then. But when I first saw these pictures, I'll show you. So that's one, bam. And then this one, little Harry right there. And then this one here, that one, and this one. When I first saw, it was this picture that I saw first. And it was this picture that I realized this is who I'm angry with. And how can I be angry with someone who's ignorant of what he's supposed to do, who was dealing with the situation he was dealing with, who wasn't educated, who wasn't shown, who didn't have the tools or ability to navigate what he was navigating. And then that allowed me to let go, to forgive myself, and to see that actually I didn't really need forgiving in the first place. I was just getting angry for no reason. And so, and I brought up the Terry Crews thing because I didn't know that he'd said that. I had that came up in my own mind, and it was I just happened across the pictures. My brother had them. I just happened across them one day, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it hit me. That's who I was angry with. And so, take time, look at yourself, examine your thoughts and examine your feelings. And there's this great phrase in the Bible, be tested out as to fitness. And there's a different context for that. But you need to test out your thoughts and ideas as to fitness. Is this who you are? Of course it is of course this is who I am. Is this actually what you want? Of course it's what I want. Well, was this always what you wanted? No. Why didn't you want this? Well, because it made me sad. So why do you do it now? Why do you have it now? Because I've accepted it just is what I am. No, that's you giving in. That's you thinking that you're not strong enough. And the thing that I want to get across in this channel, in these videos, the thing that I am desperate for people to, well, I'm not desperate for, that I want to help, not that I'm desperate, that's an awful thing to say, I don't want to be desperate for anything. The thing that I want people to understand is that they are more powerful than they could ever think they are. You are more free than you could ever hope to be. You are more powerful, you are more loved, you have more resources than anyone in the world. And that other person who we're judging you against, they have things you don't. They're powerful in ways that you could never be. And most of all, I'll probably say this in a few more videos, and I probably said it in the previous one, but in many different places, God's love is misunderstood. That you have to do something to receive it, and that you are inherently not good enough, and that you need to do something in order to get it. Now, but that one scripture that annihilates that. There's a scripture that says, nothing can separate you from God's love. Nothing in the heavens above, nothing on the earth below, nothing in the sea or on land. Nothing can separate you from God's love. So there's no action you could do that would separate you from God's love. There's no horrendous crime. And people could ask, but what about this person in history? What about that person? Yeah, God loves them. They are still God's children. Doesn't matter. But the difference between love and a blessing are two separate things. Love and blessing are two separate things. The prodigal son chose to leave his family. I don't want this. He left. And if he's outside of his family's realm of influence, then his family can't help him. So what else was he expecting? And then when the prodigal son came back, there was no like, well, are you done? You've got to do something to earn back. It was instantly, Dad ran out, Dad hugged, Dad shouted at everyone, get a bowl ready. We're gonna feast tonight. That's how God feels about you. Feels about me, feels about everyone. And with the sacrifice that Christ made, we are already perfect. Not perfect like, oh my goodness, we're perfect. We won't die. We don't make mistakes. No, In the eyes of God, we are what He wants. Like, as if, with all our mistakes, with everything that we do, with what He wants. But just because He loves us doesn't mean that we have His blessing. So let us appreciate who we are. Let us appreciate who you are. Let's appreciate who everyone is. And let's appreciate the gift that we have. And the gift that we have of freedom. Even if we are locked into a job, locked into a relationship of some kind, locked in a situation, we are still free. And that sense of freedom begins when you decide that you are. So I wish upon you the amount of love that I feel from myself and for others. I want you to know that I make these videos not because I want anything from it, because I only want to help those who want to be helped. And I don't know if there's anyone out there that wants it, but I'm sure that people will. Because if I existed, and this is because I know this is what I needed back when I needed it. I hope someone finds this, and if this is you, there's no need to comment, there's no need to like, there's no need to subscribe. You feeling at peace, you feeling at free, you feeling stronger, more powerful, that is the gift that you give me. So I will leave you with love and appreciation, and I hope what I've said has made some sense. And I will see you in the next video. Have a fantastic, fantastic day.